My name is Faiza Rahman. I am actually a qualified and practicing midwife, and I've been practicing as a midwife since 2008, and I've gained a vast amount of experience supporting families from all sorts of backgrounds and experiences. But one of the things I started to experience when I was working as a midwife was I noticed that women from diverse communities were having poorer healthcare experiences. Now, they weren't necessarily actually talking about it to everybody, but when I'd walk into a room and they felt comfortable with me, because I think I'm good at building relationships and I listen to people, they would start telling me, "Oh, Faiza, I really want you to stay. I don't really want that midwife to come back. Oh, Faiza, you know what? She's just not listening to me, or I don't feel very safe." And I kept thinking, I wonder what it is. Is it just when I walk in the room and then they start telling me all of this stuff? Like, I didn't think other people this stuff. Now, I worked around different areas before I finally settled in our local area. And around the same time, I got married, I started having my own children, and I moved into my own house. So lots of life experiences were happening to me personally. And when I moved into my local trust, this is when I started to see how the system can be designed to go against black, brown, and mixed ethnicity people. I recognised that I was that statistic. So if you read the NHS Workforce Race Equality Standard data, they actually say that if you are a brown or black-faced person, you are above the age of 30, it is likely you're never going to go above being a band 6 midwife or even a nurse. And a band 6 midwife or nurse is somebody who's basically a shop floor staff member. We do like the day in, day out grind. We're not going to get to senior leadership. And I just kept thinking, well, how can that be? How can you say you understand our communities, but there's nobody from my community sat at the table explaining this is the rubbish that's bothering us? How can you get a solution without actually listening to the people who are experiencing the difficulties? So that was me and my experience. And then around the same time, I started having my own children. And it was when I had my daughter, my second child, whose name is Hayat, which in Arabic means life. This daughter of mine, she kind of was like a catalyst that made me think, I'm not going to allow this rubbish to carry on happening to these mothers. Why are they allowing it to happen? Like, we need to stop and just understand, just because I'm a darker skin tone person does not mean my body's incapable of giving birth. In fact, actually, culturally, we give birth really well. What we need is, we just need that support to empower those mothers to nurture their children. And I recognise as a midwife, I'm only there actually for a brief moment in their life. Labour, in the grand scheme of raising children, is relatively short, right? And you get gas and air and stuff, whereas for parenting, you don't get any of that. You just got to deal with that bit. So really, I recognised there was a real gap. Now, after my daughter was born, I wanted to do something about it. So I kept getting no's from my local hospital, and I kept thinking, I'm going to do something. I want to solve this problem. So I started Raham Project as a grassroots organisation, and that was my first step into the voluntary sector after having been very institutionalised and working in the health organisations. And I was very institutionalised. I thought I had to do things in a particular way. I had to fit inside the box. And I'd always do things like if a mum wanted to do extra breastfeeding or she wanted skin to skin, I would sometimes tell white lies to my manager so that I could support her. But why was I having to do that? Why couldn't I just be authentic and say, no, I know you need that bed, but she wants to just cuddle her baby and she wants to feed her baby. She doesn't want to have her checks yet. The voluntary sector actually opened me up to being a lot more authentic and really connecting with people on a human level, which is something that I really craved. It's inherent to me being a brown person. I was raised in a community. Building relationships comes really strongly. It's part of what my identity is. So Raham Project started as a grassroots organisation that supports women from black, brown and mixed ethnicity communities. And essentially we do a couple of things. We educate and we empower our communities. And I originally started the group thinking, I'm just going to create some information, share it on social media, try to get images that are representative of women from diverse communities. There's none. Like, if you look, you'll never find pictures really of black and brown mothers and babies together in those really intimate moments. So we actually networked our life away for the last couple of years. I found an illustrator in Texas who creates infographics that look like people from our diverse communities when they're actually having babies. Like, women do not look all glossed like the photos are showing us. That's not true. We behave like mammals when we have babies, and often it's a very private and intimate affair. So Raham Project for me, essentially, is reaching out to our communities and bridging a gap where I know families need this support. And the first way that we have tried to do that is educate our communities, teach women and men in our communities about how their bodies work, and that they understand that the first barrier they experience is a lack of knowledge. And it sounds really simple, but a lot of mothers from our communities will go into an appointment and just lift up their top thinking, okay, she's going to check my abdomen and I'll go. But there's more to it. There's got to be more conversation about their autonomy and their choices and their preferences. So that's what we do right now. This information that we've created, I thought it was going to only serve Peterborough's community, but actually we've ended up growing much larger. So some of the information we've created has been published in national midwifery textbooks now. I was never expecting this was going to happen. I just thought I'm going to keep being friends with people and figure life out. And actually what started off as a project with just me, I now have 7 employed members of staff in the last year and 15 volunteers that we've just recruited. And I think I'm going to finish off saying, regarding leadership, because I've learned a lot from connecting with this organisation, that you don't know all the answers. You might recognise there's a problem, and the African proverb about going together and you'll go longer, I think that's very, very true. You need to find the people who get it, and you need to work with them, and you need to draw out the best out of those people, and that's probably what I've learned. I don't have all the answers. I can't be everywhere all the time, but what I'm really good at doing is recognising the people who know how to do it and get them on board. So thank you for coming.